Hey guys, a story slipped past me that I wanted to comment on. It actually broke. Let's see, this article was written on the 11th. The other article I saw was written on the 7th. And it has to do with Ubisoft canning somebody, and they're saying voice actor over controversial remarks. It's a little more complicated than just simply a voice actor getting fired. Basically, they had a fictional world podcast that was being hosted by Helen Lewis, who is a real podcast journalist who used to write for The Atlantic. So, woke lefty. You know how it goes. Very politically correct choice. Ubisoft thought, okay, well, how could we possibly get in trouble with the woke mafia if we've chosen a woman who's written for The Atlantic? Well, there was a quote from an article in 2017 where she said, "A man can't just say he has turned into a woman." I mean, that's objectively true, but that was enough for her to be called a TERF and for people to be outraged, and Ubisoft panicked, and they canned her. And they're replacing her, I guess, with somebody else before Legion comes out. Actually, I'm not even sure if Legion has come out already. And this is one of the scary things is that, with the digital updates and stuff, they can replace you even if the game has went gold. They can replace you. And I feel like that is somewhat of an abuse. There needs to really be some rules for that. And in this case, this lady, she didn't deserve. I mean, she isn't who I would have picked to have a podcast talking about this dystopian future in London. But she doesn't deserve to get canned after she put in the work and did the stuff and was hired and did the job. And then someone says, "I'm offended by something she wrote down 2 years ago," to them, which would be a foreign magazine that's a left-wing rag. And and she now is knocked out. Reinforce our background checks for partnership. They weren't going to be able to find this. So Ubisoft doesn't have the staff to go find and comb through everything somebody has ever said. And what they do now, and this is what these companies do, is they specifically try to hire people with the most woke opinions and the most safe people they can choose are the most woke of the woke. Because conservatives won't cancel you for being, too woke. They'll roll their eyes. If you say you hate them, they won't buy your product. But we're not going to call up Ubisoft and say, this Helen Lewis, she's a lefty something, and she said something that offended me, 2 years ago in The Atlantic, and you need to not platform her or something. It would be silly. But the left, they absolutely will do this. And again, what I said this causes is groups like companies like Ubisoft and the rest of the left-wing game casting people who don't have a spine, they only hire the woke of the woke, and it's a problem. It's a problem because conservatives can't get ahead. They have to either remain completely silent or pretend to be somebody they're not. They're actively discriminated against, and we know this because right here, this opinion is a man can't just say he has turned into a woman. That's actually an objective fact. That's not even an opinion. But even if you take it as an opinion, that's not particularly controversial, right? I mean, that's something that pretty much everybody who's conservative, including people who are trans and conservative, believe. So if that is enough to write in a left-wing rag, have written this sentence without, and be able to have it taken out of context, the rest of the article woke as hell, enough to get you not only not hired, but actually, if you were hired, all of your work removed and then replaced with somebody else, we got a problem, don't we? And it's really funny. They want to talk. They're tackling the subject of fascism. I got news here, Ubisoft. This is the kind of decisions you're making. You're ill-equipped to tackle that subject, and this game's going to be nothing but a parody. And I wouldn't be surprised if I end up rooting for the bad guys if I ever end up playing this, because you guys don't get it. You don't see the irony here that you would do this to a lady who, for not being woke enough, who already was a lefty, because you catered to the outrage mob. You said she doesn't have free speech because if she speaks freely, we won't hire her. And don't think we don't see this. Ubisoft. Don't think we don't see that. This is what you're going to only be hiring lefties and leftists. And this is going to infect the company all the way down, whether it's a public person like who's an actor, or whether it's a board member, or a project designer, or a lead, or a programmer, or an art person. If they hold the opinion that a man can't just say he has turned into a woman, that is enough for you to terminate your relationship with them. That's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. And Ubisoft, you're going to pay a price for this. And what I'm saying is, it's not that you're going to get an immediate boycott, or the conservatives are going to start, calling in and trashing you guys, or review bomb you. No, that's not what's going to get you. What's going to get you is that you've already poisoned your company with this SJW wokeness. And I hate using that term because it's so cliche, but it's like, I don't know what else to call this but that. You guys are poisoning your company, and you're going to go down in flames, because the people who cave to someone who gets mad about this don't, all the people with the talent are not those same people. That group doesn't overlap with talent. And you're going to be working from a very small pool, and your entire artistic expression, your entire game is going to suffer. And you got to remember, this isn't the right doing this to you. This isn't the people with this opinion who have done this to you. It is the people who find this completely intolerable. Ubisoft's apology is ridiculous. While the in-game podcasts are following a pre-approved script and are not speaking in their own name or with their own opinions, we understand this collaboration itself may be seen as offensive, and we deeply regret any hurt it has caused. That is pathetic. That is pathetic. And that is, in my opinion, that's probably grounds for a civil rights lawsuit. Could you imagine if they hired somebody who was, of a particular religion or a particular ethnicity, and then enough people got upset and they said, how dare you do that? Because they believe XYZ. And then you fired them and you said, we're sorry for hiring them because the collaboration is seen as an endorsement of that person, and even though it's not meant to be, and we deeply regret any hurt that this has caused. Could you imagine that, right? A company wouldn't be able to get away with that, surely. But if you do it to somebody who has a simple opinion like, men can't just say they've turned into women, that's okay, and that's somehow perfectly legal. Now, I don't know if the state should be getting involved with this. I tend to say no. But, I should say my gut instinct is no. But this is getting kind of ridiculous. This is not the only company that's doing this kind of stuff. And you guys are going to suffer for it. Your players are going to suffer for it. You guys are trying to get into esports. You think those guys who are playing first-person tactical shooters, you think that there's not a fair share of conservatives amongst them? There absolutely are. And they're going to make jokes that you guys, that the woke mafia aren't going to like. And are you just going to sever relationships every time somebody complains about something? This Helen Lewis lady, she's a lefty. For God's sake, The Atlantic is what she was writing for. The Atlantic, which is a far left rag. It is nothing but left-wing propaganda. But she wasn't woke enough, and you guys bent the knee immediately. Immediately. It's pretty pathetic. It's really pathetic. So this isn't a good sign for the future. And also, I want you guys to think here. Not only am I saying that they actively discriminate against conservatives, and let's say the industry does, and this is prime evidence of that. I would say this is actually proof of that, in my opinion, because if that's enough to get you fired after you've been on a project, and then they admit to essentially screening people, the collaboration, and then they were a development team, work with external producer, selectors, the profiles. Yeah, so they pre-screen people anyway. But if they would cave to a weak, whiny social justice mob who doesn't even buy the goddamn game in the first place, what do you think Ubisoft will do for the Chinese? Right? If they don't have the balls to stand up to basically left-wing fascists in the West who want all ideas that aren't their own silenced, if they'll cave to that, what do you think they'll do for the fascist Chinese? when there's millions of dollars on the line. You think that they got the spine to do that? You think this thing taking place in totalitarian London is going to mention at all any kind of parallels with the Chinese? You think this game's going to even be allowed to be sold in China because it's about people rebelling against the government? Usually that stuff gets banned. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Chinese release of this is completely censored in altered in ways that make it unrecognizable. Not that it's not already going to be a joke in the first place, because if this is your guys' policy, that you would fire somebody over this statement here, that means none of your writers, none of your artists, none of your actors, none of these people are allowed to hold that opinion, which means you're telling a left-wing version, not even just a left-wing, a fully woke version of what you guys think a dystopian society is. And it's going to be shit. It's going to be total garbage. This is not, it's not going to be good. I mean, I don't even have to play it to know it's going to be good, because if you've discriminated against people when this is with basically thoughts of their own, when this is crossing the line for you, that means you're only getting input from one side, and one side who has an agenda, and one side who cries and cowers to authoritarians. So while Ubisoft cowers to authoritarians, they pretend that they're going to somehow make a game that stands up to where the protagonists stand up against authoritarians. That's pretty pathetic. So Ubisoft, you guys got to get your stuff together. You got to get it together, because this is going to destroy your company. It'll be slow at first, and then it'll be real fast, and maybe the Chinese money will keep you going for a little bit, but it's you're selling your souls to people who aren't even the ones who are going to be buying the game. The people offended by this are not ones who are buying games, period. And then the ones who are, there's not enough of them for it to even make a difference. So if you upset everybody who's, who believes this, or the moderates who are just don't like the fact that you fired somebody for just having a not woke enough opinion. Again, we're talking The Atlantic. This lady's a left-wing feminist. But apparently she's getting the J.K. Rowling treatment, where, J.K. Rowling is an appalling left-winger in terms of the stuff she believes. But, in the trans stuff, she's a little more moderate. Nope, can't have that. That's transphobic. And then you guys want to cancel her. It's out of control. It's out of control, and it's just, I find it ironic at the very least. I'm not even sure what the correct term is, that you guys would be making a game about people rebelling against totalitarianism, against fascism, against censorship, and then this is the kind of hiring and firing decisions you guys make, is when somebody who said this 2 years ago in a left-wing magazine, and that's going to be a problem now. I mean, I don't know what else I can say here. Fans, you guys got to pay attention to this. I'm not saying you got to, boycott Ubisoft or call their office or something. No, of course not. But you guys should take a good hard look at what's going on here. And this is why the talent in the industry, why the games are getting incomplete, why they're not getting creative, why they're getting derivative, is because they keep out entire. It used to be just the right they kept out, but now it's like even the moderate left who isn't woke enough, they keep out now. So they only hire this small amount of people for the creative roles. And it's bad. It's bad for the industry. It's bad for the art. And you guys got to be aware of this. So we're not full of crap when we say, basically conservatives aren't allowed in the industry. They're not allowed in the industry. We know this. And this is prime evidence of it. Why does Ubisoft care? Why do they feel the need to bend the knee to the woke mob? It wouldn't cost them anything just to fight back. In fact, they'd probably be more popular if they fought back. Because then they would say, even though this lady is a lefty, writing for The Atlantic. So it's sad. It's just really sad. I love the Tom Clancy games. I've had good experiences with Ubisoft, bad experiences with Ubisoft. I really enjoy watching Siege and whatnot. But if this is the creative decisions you guys are making, your company has absolutely no future. I don't know how else to put it. There's no future in this. No future in this, unless you guys plan on being state run, or I don't know, basically, or I should say state funded from China or something. You guys have absolutely no future. So that's all I wanted to say about that.